Well, friends, welcome to today's Rita Sood Memorial Award and Lifetime Achievement Award for Dr. Daljit Singh. I now hand over to Dr. Richa Thaman to lead the just just a moment. I have to manage the YouTube also. Yes, over to you, Dr. Richa. Dr. Richa.
Yes, Dr. Sanjay, thank you so much. I am Dr. Richa Thaman, and I'm professor in physiology at SGRD Medical College, Amritsar, and I'm a medical educationist. And it's a proud privilege for me to introduce Dr. Daljit Singh. Sir is the Director in Chief of Guru Tegh Bahadur Hospital, Ludhiana. He's formerly the Vice Chancellor of SGRD University of Health Sciences, Amritsar. Sir was the principal, professor, and head of the pediatrics department and Dayanand Medical College, Ludhiana, and professor and head of pediatrics at Christian Medical College, Ludhiana. Sir is fellow of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, fellow National Neonatology Forum, fellow National Academy of Medical Sciences, fellow International Medical Sciences Academy. He is a FAMO fellow from Philadelphia Institute, USA. He's visiting fellow pediatric pulmonology from Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, United Kingdoms. Sir has authored 5 books, over 120 international publications, 20 chapters in books, editorial services to 12 medical journals as editor-in-chief and member of many editorial boards. He's a national governing body member of NNF, an executive committee member of Indian Academy of Pediatrics. Sir is founder, president of Intensive Care Chapter IAP Punjab, president, secretary of Punjab branch of IAP and NNF. And I have seen that harnessing student feedback, sir has followed it up from his FAMO fellowship as well as through his principalship in the Anand Medical College, Ludhiana. I have been a part, I have seen it that he has followed it as a vice chancellor of SGRD University, and it has been very constructive as well as it has facilitated many of the faculty to improve its teaching habits and ruffled a few feathers. So I hand over this stage to Dr. Daljit Singh. Sir, the stage is yours for harnessing student feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richa, and thank you everyone in MEU India for having me here to deliver this oration in the name of Dr. Rita Sood. I have met Dr. Rita a few times, and she always came across as a very gentle, a very considerate and compassionate kind of doctor, plus an excellent teacher and absolutely passionate about medical education. And I know that not many physicians who are in medicine as a specialty are too much involved in medical education because they are very busy clinicians and they are researchers too. So it's very gratifying to see that somebody from medicine takes the lead and has been so innovative and has taken so much of initiative in promoting medical education in our country. I used to think that as clinicians, only people like me, pediatricians, are very much into medical education, but I see there are other specialties where there is equal amount of interest and motivation. I'll share my slides just now and just confirm to me that these are visible so that I can carry on. Uh,
Yes,
so
sir,
can
they
you
are
please?
visible.
Okay, is it on the full screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So the topic which I have for today is harnessing the power of student feedback. Now, this topic has been quite close to my heart, in fact, and I have been always interested in this particular aspect of medical education. Uh, Actually, in any endeavor or any activity, one of the main things which we need to bother about is how it is developing.
Sir, please unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so development is a very essential part of any enterprise, and medical education is something in which we have been evolving all these years, and I think it is uh, just appropriate that we should keep on improving because this is an area which is actually endless. And this statement is very valid that evaluation without development is punitive. That means, I mean, you're just taking punitive action if something is not found to be okay. And when we say evaluation, we are talking about judgment of worth, merit, or value. And on the other hand, development without evaluation is guesswork. That means you just don't know where you're going. My interest in medical education started way back in around 1985, and that was I had just become associate professor in pediatrics at Christian Medical College in Ludhiana. And up till that time, I must say that there was neither development nor evaluation. I mean, we were teachers and we just carried on with our job, thinking that we are actually teaching excellently without knowing much about medical educational technology. So the first exposure to this happened with the NTTC, National Teachers Training Course in PGI Chandigarh, which myself and Dr. Natu, who was a professor and head of pharmacology at CMC, we both attended that 10-day workshop. That opened our eyes because right at the onset, we were given a questionnaire, a pre-test, and there were about 20 questions, and our score was zero practically in both of us, and everybody, in fact, who took part in that. So we suddenly realized that we don't know anything about medical educational technology. And after 10 days, we had the post test, and you can guess that everybody scored full marks, more or less. So we came back very enriched, and we realized that this is something which we have been deficient in and which we need to develop on. After this, we had a workshop in CMET in AIMS, Delhi. And there, Dr. Tejinder Singh, my friend, and myself attended that workshop, which was, I think, 3 or 4 days. And that again brought us into a new perspective about how we can improve our medical education, how the teachers can be involved and they can be made to improve in their teaching. And this statement I read or heard for the first time over there in that workshop. The proof of the cake is in the eating. That means we as teachers sometimes like to believe that we are doing a good job, but who is to decide whether our teaching is appropriate or not? It is the consumer, and the consumer is the student. So if the student feels that we are a good teacher, then we are. And if they feel we are not, then we are not. So it is not up to us to decide how we are doing. It is actually the consumer who is supposed to decide that. And since the emphasis over the years has been on learner centered education, therefore, the central figure is not the teacher, but it is the learner. And so, whatever we do should cater to the requirements of the student. And therefore, the structured or informal evaluation of the educational experiences become very vital in deciding what is the quality of medical education which we are imparting. So that's how we got this in our mind that we as teachers need to improve. And so the first thing we did as we came back from there, I remember on the train journey between New Delhi and Ludhiana, we didn't have a seat. We were, clinging on to the side there and standing most of the way and discussing what we are going to do. And we decided that we should carry out some activities on medical education technology in our institution. And that led to a series of sessions which we conducted on various topics of education, and also on a 3-day medical education workshop. And this obviously could not cover the entire faculty in one go. So we had three such educational workshops, and almost, I think, more or less the entire faculty was covered in that. It was a very heartening and very gratifying kind of experience. And we found that, everybody took it well, everybody benefited from it, and it became a part of our routine activity to make sure that our um, medical education is of a very high standard. So one of the experiments we did there actually was to conduct a kind of a survey, and we gave this questionnaire to all the students of the first professional and second professional course, for all the teachers of the first professional and second professional course. So that means, say, 6 subjects or 6 departments, and so many teachers in each. And we told the student to fill up this questionnaire confidentially, which involved, talking about the various aspects of good teaching quality as we understood at that time. So there was the elements were creating and maintaining an atmosphere for learning, speaking with a loud and clear voice, explaining relevance of the matter which is taught, arousing interest, explaining carefully, providing examples, summarizing issues before moving on, posing thought-provoking questions, encouraging students to share ideas, detecting confusion and misconceptions in the class, providing relevant notes, and giving guidance for further learning. These were some of the attributes we thought were the characteristics of a good teacher. And the students, gave their feedback upon what they thought about each individual teacher with respect to these attributes. So we made a kind of score which we called as SAI, a Student Acceptability Index, based on what was the average score for that particular teacher. And we that range was from 0 to 1, and we put it in a table like this. So in the different departments and with this number of teachers, the average score was ranging from between 0.24, which is not very good, to 0.46 or so. That also is not really very good. So the same exercise without doing anything else was repeated after 6 months. And the only thing we did at that time in between was that we showed the results to individual teachers of their own self. That means we did not disclose what the other teachers or other departments what score they had. We just gave a individual feedback to all those who wanted that feedback. Otherwise, we just did nothing practically, and we repeated the same exercise after 6 months. And to our surprise, and pleasant surprise rather, we found that the SAI jumped quite remarkably from the previous value 6 months ago. This was very surprising because actually no intervention had been done. And that brought us to, this concept of how human behavior at work operates. Because in spite of no inputs following the rating by the same set of teachers and same students, after 6 months, a significantly better rating was given. The basis of this obviously was that performance improves when one is being observed. So monitoring improves performance. And if you're put in a special group in a study, you suddenly start finding yourself improving in your performance. This phenomenon is called the Hawthorne effect. And this is an established kind of concept even much earlier, 1940s, but it had never been used in medical education. And this publication was way back in 1991 from CMC. And the gist of this was that if you just put a set of people under observation, then their performance improves. As simple as that. So this was our first experience of the benefit of feedback from the students, and that brought us to trying to use this for furthering our educational technology and our teacher performance. Now, initially, when we did this exercise, some of the teachers did have, a kind of negative approach in the sense that they were apprehensive. They were little bit cynical also that how can students, assess us and decide how we are teaching. But the atmosphere in our institution at that time was excellent. All the teachers were very positive, they took it well. And that I think is a very important concept in this whole exercise, because when there is an environment which fosters support, growth, and challenge, then feedback is very useful. So instead of being demoralized by the performance rankings which the faculty had, they can concentrate on the individual effort, and they don't need to compare themselves with anybody else but to themselves. So the current progress can be compared to the past performance, and by getting individual specific feedback they can concentrate on developing better teaching skills, better methods, rather than being fearful or resenting or comparing with anybody else. And in that sense, this evaluation or this feedback in relation to teaching becomes a very rewarding kind of process rather than being a dreaded event, because in general terms all kind of assessments and examinations and tests, they do bring about a feeling of fear and of dread, and most people don't like it. But here is a situation where you benefit from it, and if you take it positively, there's a lot of benefit from this. Now, this feedback specifically was on faculty performance, but we uh, decided and we thought that this can be extended very easily to other aspects of medical education, the quality of teaching, and the curriculum itself. So, all of these aspects can be evaluated, and the best person to do it, as we had already seen, was the student itself. And so, when I shifted to Dayanand Medical College in 1992, I carried forward whatever we had done at CMC, and they also continued in that activity. And we expanded it to involve feedback regarding both the individual teachers, as we were doing, as well as the departments. So, this form, for example, is just a sample of what kind of tool we used. And as you can see, the modules of assessment were ranging in different aspects. The curriculum, for example, whether there is a clear projection of the learning objectives and the curriculum in that discipline, whether the interaction of the faculty with the students and creation of interest in the subject was adequate or satisfactory, whether the regularity and adequacy of time which was devoted to the teaching sessions was appropriate imparting of knowledge and skills and ensuring their acquisition was taken into account, what was the quality and adequacy of the tests and assessments, and whether adequate time was given to practically demonstrate the skills and the assessment of these skills, and plus whether there was adequate infrastructure available to train the students. Now, with all these aspects, the students graded the different departments into, the like a kind of scale from good to poor, excellent to poor, and we got a compilation of the results for each department. Same time, the individual teachers were also given a feedback from every student, and similar kind of attributes were tested, which we had used in the initial exercise at CMC. For example, the regularity and the time spent in devotion and teaching, the process of teaching, whether it is clear and organized, whether it is relevant, the interactivity of the teaching, the understanding and the retention of the information, the demonstration and practical sessions, all these aspects were assessed by the students. And there were two questions which always came in for every kind of feedback, and this is being used even now in all kind of feedback exercises. first question mention two things which you like best, and the second mention to suggest two changes to make the teaching even better. And this part was, of course, open-ended. The first part was just, ticking off the box. And we found very useful information from these. So, for example, here is one student's feedback regarding different departments on the attributes which we have just talked about. And as you can see here, there's a lot of discrimination. Right from 1 to 5, the scores varied. And even within the departments, they varied quite a bit, say from 1 to 3 over here, and so on. So the students actually took it seriously and they identified specific aspects of teaching and they gave their feedback. And this was very useful for each department. For example, in this one department here, they said that the regularity and adequacy of time devoted was poor. So obviously, this is something which needs correction. Similarly, the same department, it says that there is not enough time given to the practical demonstration of skills. So this again becomes an issue where some improvement is required. Whereas when the score is very good, then the department can sit back and pat their own backs that they are doing a good job and they should continue at it. Similarly, when the students were giving their feedback about specific open-ended question answers, they gave very good suggestions. For example, now here is a suggestion that more interactive tutorial session should be held, or the teachers can be more friendly and interactive. I mean, these are little things which students feel, and I think they should be taken seriously because ultimately it is the whole exercise is for the students, and whatever they feel will improve uh, their own quality of learning, then that thing should be gladly adopted by all the teachers. Now, this was an example of individual feedback given to the teacher by different students. I mean, all the different responses have been actually, cut out and stuck together to form a kind of one collage. It seems to be, a hodgepodge, and I mean, it's very difficult to make out what they're trying to say. But if you see carefully, there are some things which are common in this. For example, for this particular teacher, most of the students have said that the teacher is not audible, or the speaks very softly, or it's not audible and should be a bit louder, should speak a little slowly, unaudible, speak loudly, please, make students sit in the front row, can you use the mic? These are all feedbacks from individual students, but they talk the same thing that this teacher needs to improve the communication in terms of the loudness and the clarity of the voice. And I don't know what exactly happened specifically in this case, but definitely when the teacher receives this kind of feedback, I'm sure that next time they would take steps to improve this and to make sure that this deficiency, so to say, is taken care of. So the student feedback, therefore, becomes a very important aspect of our medical education. And I think there are a few points which can be very clearly seen. You can identify the areas of strength and you can identify the areas which need improvement in terms of the teaching quality. You can identify gaps in the curriculum, and the students can even tell you what is redundant and what is outdated. It fosters the culture of reflection and improvement in the whole institution. It increases the motivation of the students and the sense of ownership over their own learning. And I think this is a very good development because they feel they're involved and they're important and they matter. And of course, there's another aspect that for certain accreditation programs now by regulatory bodies, this student feedback is one of the components. For example, in NAC, I know that one of the aspects which they look into is what is the feedback of the students regarding the institution and the teaching. So this was the project which I had in my fellowship in Famer Institute in Philadelphia, and it was related to the effect of comments of the students regarding the content, the methods, and the assessment of teaching in different disciplines. and the result of these in terms of what changes were made by the teachers and by the departments based on this feedback. So what we generally found was that it was a very good exercise, the student feedback, and the teachers benefited by knowing what the students perceived as were the things which needed improvement in their curriculum and in their program. So this was a, a kind of exercise which we did, and we published this also. And also, I think we need to also know that it is not that everything can be judged by the students. There are some aspects which they are not really qualified to judge. For example, they shouldn't be talking about the content of the course, should not be talking about the subject matter knowledge of the instructors, but that's a different issue altogether. The course design or the goals of the course or the quality of student assessment. I mean, these are some things which actually it is not in their domain, and they should not be commenting on this, but they should be commenting on the aspects of the teacher performance and the departmental teaching which is carried on. So this slide here shows the key principles which we must follow when we are doing student feedback exercises. Most important is it has to be anonymous, because only when it is anonymous can you ensure honest and unbiased responses. If you are identified, then it straight away takes away, the actual authenticity of the feedback. In fact, one of the problems with the open-ended, questions which I just talked about a little while ago, is that they write something, and some people are experts in identifying who has written what. So that becomes a negative aspect. We took care of that by not giving the raw material to the teachers and to the departments, because we did not want the students to be identified at all. This is something which we have to be careful about. The second point is that it should be constructive. That means whatever criticism, so-called criticism they give, it should be critique, it should be aimed at improvement, and it should be actionable. I mean, there's no point of suggesting something which cannot be done. And the feedback should be timely, it should be regularly gathered, and it should be delivered promptly. Because if you want a good impact, one of the basic principles of any feedback is that it should be immediate. Whenever something is done, you assess it and you give a feedback so that straight away the person can identify what has gone wrong. For example, if somebody has an argument today on some matter, and after 3 months you said, on that day you said so and so, I mean, that's hardly the method in which you should be communicating. So, timeliness is important. Bilateral communication is very important. There should be a dialogue between all concerned so that there is effectiveness which is increased. There should be clear and specific questions, and the exercise should be transparent. And so, therefore, the students also should be informed how this feedback will be used, what will be the influence, so that they take it seriously. Because if the students give feedback for many times, let us say, and nothing is done, then obviously they will lose interest and they will say this is a useless exercise, why am I doing this, and the whole activity will become worthless. So it is very important that they should know how the feedback will be used and what will be the benefit of that feedback. Now obviously feedback can be summative or formative. That means at the end of the course, which would be through usually surveys or some program evaluations, questionnaires, and so on. And another type of feedback would be the formative or the development one. So it's not just the students who have summative assessment and formative assessment. Even the teachers and the training programs has this kind of assessment. So the formative assessment would be while the course is going on, how they can improve the ongoing teaching learning practices. And it can be done in very many manners. I mean, there is a whole long list of 8 or 10 ways in which you can take informal formative feedback from the students, including, just even casual conversations, even spontaneous comments, and evaluations which can be real time during their rotations and so on. Now, again, there would be two types of feedback. One would be formal and the other would be informal. Most of the summative assessment would be formal, but the formative assessment can be either, I mean, in general terms, both formal and informal. So both are important because when we talk about formal feedback, this would be related to specific curriculum activity objectives, the professional standards, and the comparison between instructors and between instructors between their own performance over time. And there are many advantages of this because it's a standardized procedure. There's a uniform scale which is used, and typically it is backed by research and gives you a very specific diagnostic feedback. So, this is the standard way in which feedback is normally taken from the students. But there are disadvantages. Sometimes the questions are worded too generally or they are not suited for every course. So, it is very important to frame the questions very nicely, and often they don't really provide guidelines of how to improve, but they just make a assessment of what is the current status. So this can be taken care of by framing better questions. Informal feedback would be by recurring observations made by the teachers during the interaction with the students. More time is involved. Interaction with the students is very much more intense over here, but it is not standardized and usually it won't have any scores involved. And they don't involve comparisons between one person, another, or the same person, or different departments, and so on. The advantage of this obviously is that since it is collected during the class, it is useful for formative evaluation. The teachers can benefit from the feedback and modify their method of teaching. And there can be embedded measures collected during the class which provide the evidence of the progress of the students. The disadvantages, of course, would be that it's not standardized and you can't compare. And sometimes, the validity and reliability of this kind of feedback is lacking. So, informal feedback has to be taken in that light that we are generally trying to find some soft areas in which we can improve. Now, one of the things I mentioned here was embedded measures collected during class to provide evidence of the students' progress to learning outcomes. This was a very interesting exercise which we started, and I used to do this routinely, and I managed to persuade all my colleagues to follow this system. That when we're taking lectures, before the lecture starts, we project a pre-test on the screen and give them 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever time, to answer these questions. I mean, they don't have to say anything, they just have to note how many answers they know. And then you just ask them, okay, anybody who knows more than, say, three answers? The usual typical answer is nobody. More than two, nobody. More than one, nobody. So you need this class. That's the introduction to the lecture. And the benefit of this is that suddenly they realize two things. One is that they don't know these particular things which have been put up there. And secondly, that these are going to be covered in that lecture. And at the end of the lecture, you give the same questionnaire again. And as you put up these questions, during the lecture, their eyes light up, ye sawal ka answer bhi aa gaya, and this is also there covered in the questionnaire. And at the end, when you project these questions, there is a chorus of answers. Now, two things have been done at the same time. We have verified that the purpose of the lecture has been met. That means they have learned, they have understood the whole concepts, and the important learning objectives have been met. And therefore, the questionnaire should be well framed and it should focus on the important learning areas. And secondly, it sustains the interest of the student and they listen more carefully. They don't sleep in class. And so you are actually getting a feedback. This is also a form of feedback that whatever you have been teaching has been imbibed by the students. Because suppose at the end of the lecture you find they still can't answer these questions, then something is wrong and you have not done the job. So this is one form of in-class formative kind of feedback which we can obtain from the students. Now, this feedback can be obtained in many ways. I mean, there are quantitative methods, and the typical method would be a questionnaire or a survey, which is the standard method of collecting this feedback nowadays. But there can be qualitative methods, there can be innovative methods. But the most important and common way in which we collect feedback is through surveys and questionnaire. They have definite advantages and disadvantages. The main advantages of questionnaires are that are simple, they give you reliable information, they can enable comparison. Identical questions can be framed the same way. The fear and embarrassment is avoided because this is something written. You don't have to face the students or the teacher, both of them. Confidentially can be assured. But there are certain disadvantages too. They take time. It's difficult to, formulate these questionnaires. The response only is to those questions which are set, so therefore other things are not tested. There's a fixed pattern of response, usually either yes, no, or just a grading 1 to 5. Uh, this is an inappropriate measure of subtle differences, which you can bring out only by discussion or by open-ended questions. The results sometimes can be ambiguous, and one more problem here is that usually the entire class, all the students don't give feedback. Either they are absent or they are not involved or they are not interested. So if there is a big difference between the type of non-responders and the people who have given the response, then there's going to be a sampling error, a sampling bias, because the viewpoint of those who did not respond could be quite different to the ones who have actually given the feedback. And often it would be the negative kind of feedback which the non-responders could have given but have not given. So the second type of collection is the qualitative methods like open-ended questions, like focus groups or interviews. And we have also used some innovative methods like digital platforms, mobile apps, portals, learning management systems. Nowadays, even Mentimeter and such polling apps are available. And one of the ways we utilized this was in SGRD. Dr. Richa knows this, and she helped and actually carried out this activity on my behalf. That we had a Google form, and we used this. We collected all the students, and we issued this form to them. It was not identified, and they gave their feedback on whatever aspects we wanted to get their feedback about. We did it for different levels. In fact, we even extended it to the entire institution. What is best about this institution? What can be done to make this institution even better? I mean, this is an extension of what we have been talking about. We talked about departments again, and we also made it into a competitive exercise in the sense that we said, okay, please enumerate three best teachers in order of preference you came across during your MBBS course. Of course, this was done during internship. That means they had completed the course. Because otherwise, if you do this kind of activity during the course, there's going to be an obvious bias. Again, same department wise also, enumerate two departments in order of preference you would rate to be the best. Now, this again gave us very interesting information, and we shared this specifically with individual departments, and they took it seriously, in fact. And also, the best teachers who were identified by this method, we acknowledged them and we brought them together. We gave them certificates of appreciation, and this became a kind of competition among the teachers. And we did this over a couple of years while I was there as vice chancellor. But I don't know whether it is continuing or not. But I think this does bring about an improvement in the teachers just because they want to come into that list of best teachers. So for each department also, we asked for specific feedback. This entire exercise to carry out was much easier than doing it manually. The interpretation of the data also was much easier. And I think this is a good method now as we move forward, how to get the feedback. Now, how do you improve this system of student feedback? There are some strategies which we can use. One is that it should be done in a way where everybody is involved and they are educated how to do this and how to take it. For example, educators should be trained how to handle the feedback constructively, not defensively. How do they, improve? So faculty development programs can be developed on this basis. Feedback literacy for students is very important. We must educate the students on the value and the purpose of the feedback, the importance of the criteria, how to complete the ratings, and also that the feedback should be objective, it should be constructive, it should be respectful, so that the students actually give we don't want grab over there. Sometimes if you let students lose, they will even write some improper things over there. So they need to have a little bit of counseling and I would say a kind of suggestion as to how they should use this whole exercise. We should involve the faculty in the development of the system, especially even the framing of the questions, so that they have an acceptance and they have an ownership of the whole program, and their concerns are addressed, because there may be genuine points which the faculty brings about in this whole activity. And another thing which we can do is to combine quantitative and qualitative feedback for better comprehension. That means the formal methods as well as the informal methods and the summative and the formative assessment. All these tools should be combined so that we can get the best possible results. How do you make the best use of feedback? It depends very much on the teacher, I think. The faculty is more likely to change if they're motivated, if they want to improve, if they want to take these suggestions, identify the points, and take action on them. This is the way they can use this feedback. And upholding standards is very important. We should recognize and reward excellent performance. We should address unsatisfactory performance also. Now, this we have not talked about, but I think in a way you can use this for things like promotions or increments and so on. This is a gray area and it's a sensitive area. I wouldn't like to comment too much on this, but this is an extension of the student feedback kind of system. Some places do use this. And the second, as I've already said a little while ago, rewarding excellent performance is also important. If you can identify student feedback led, who are the best teachers and who are the best, which are the best departments, it gives you a kind of motivation. I am fortunate that I received on 2 occasions the best teacher awards for from the students. I hope it was not a bias, because I had devised the whole program. But I did feel very happy and gratified that the students are recognizing the teaching which we are doing. Closing the feedback loop is very important. We must share with the students how the feedback has led to specific changes, and we must ensure that there is complete confidentiality, because only then they feel safe and they give their honest opinion. Some challenges and barriers are there before we end this talk. I mean, there's lack of time sometimes. Sometimes there's a low response rate, and one of the reasons might be that you are surveying too much without having much visible outcome. As I said in the beginning, if they feel that nothing is coming out of it, they will lose interest and the response will be less. Sometimes the responses can be biased, depending on the teacher's style or strictness or marking. I mean, some teachers believe that because they are very strict, that the students don't give them good grades. I think that is a myth in a way, because the teachers who were sometimes very strict, but they were very good teachers, they communicated well, they cared for the students, and they taught well, they ensured learning. They always got a good feedback from the students, irrespective of whether they were strict or not. Fear of negative reactions, both sides. Poor communication skills, that is also a very big barrier. Sometimes cultural challenges, some people are reluctant to give a critical assessment of authority figure. They just don't have the guts, maybe, or they don't have the inclination to talk negatively about people in authority. Lack of training may be there, and sometimes there is also an element of a mechanical problem like a halo effect. Now, this is a very interesting phenomenon, the halo effect, that if you have an impression about somebody, then it becomes a kind of universal impression that somebody, I like this person, therefore everything about that person is good, even if it is not. So although you're getting a feedback on 8 attributes, just because the person is a favorite, the person gets the same score for this for all the attributes, which means that either the student has not really bothered, doesn't want to spend that much time. I'm sure if you have given a feedback which is very lengthy, sometimes you have this problem. You go to a restaurant, or I once got a feedback about the servicing of my car, and there were about 3 page, form. You have to go on ticking. So who's going to fill that? You just go on ticking somewhere, and so that's not a good method of making the questionnaire also. So one point which emerges from this is that the questionnaire should not be very long and lengthy. It should not be taxing. But this is a phenomenon, halo effect. As you can see in this case, the student has just marked uniform 1 grade for every attribute which he feels is there. This is a kind of bias which we have to be knowing about when we are interpreting the results. Now, this feedback system is not there in most of the medical colleges, as I know. But wherever it is present, it has become a routine. There is a culture which has developed. And I think that every medical institution must adopt this student feedback culture so that we can improve our medical education. And what do you need to do for that? You need to train the faculty and students. You need to have a proper environment which should be non-judgmental and safe and non-threatening, so to say. It should be incorporated into the regular academic activities. Everybody should know that this is a part of what we are going to do, and it should be utilized for continuous development of the curriculum. That's how this culture will develop. And I do hope that, maybe if somebody can get a little motivated by this talk itself, if in your institution you're not carrying out student feedback, please do so. I'm sure you will find marvelous results from this activity. It's not just we are doing it here, it is all over the world. This is the last slide. I just wanted to point out that in most of the countries, they are using student feedback. UK, the GMC mandates robust student feedback mechanisms for accreditation of medical students. United States, the Association of American Medical Colleges, it incorporates student feedback into the graduation questionnaire, which will affect the curriculum. And in Australia and Canada too, competency-based feedback is aligned with the outcome-based education. So it is not something specific to any particular place. It is universal. It should be universal. And I would strongly recommend everyone to harness the power of student feedback so that the ultimate consumer or the person, the stakeholder is going to benefit, the student actually benefits from our activity as teachers and in the teaching departments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Uh, we are very honored with this session, and over the years we have seen you deliver at different forums such activities. Uh, So we are honored to present to you the Lifetime Achievement Award for all you have done, and I'm sure you are still doing it, but for what you have so far done, uh, we are honored to present to you the Lifetime Achievement Award and also the uh, Rita Sood Memorial Oration as well. So thank you
I'm
for
honored,
accepting.
and I'm so honored and grateful to MEU India and to you for giving me this honor. It's a very precious kind of thing. I will hold it very close to my heart. This is something uh, which reinforces my feeling that medical education is something very important and that I have been able to contribute a little bit to this activity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And we are very grateful to Dr. Tajinder Singh for uh, helping us for creating these awards. These are all his brainchild. So with this, we end the session. The recording will be available on YouTube and we will share it very soon. Thank you.